Alright, today I have a super quick video for you including a couple of photography tips and tricks that I use all the time to always get the shot. I can highly recommend to use them because they actually help me as well as a beginner photographer, so let's talk about them. Okay, so what's up and welcome back to another video on this channel, and I hope you had a fantastic day. And yes, in this video it is time to talk about how to take better photos in 2022 simple and fast. And yes, as I started to take photos, I wish that I knew these kind of tips and tricks that I want to share today with you, because it would have made my whole workflow way easier. And yeah, exactly that's why I want to share them with you, because I hope you can improve your own photography way faster. And first let's start with the most common problem, and here we need to talk about your shooting mode. I know a couple of auto modes and priority modes can make things way easier in a few situations, but what I highly recommend is to go full manual. Because yeah, in the end, if you learn all the basics about aperture, ISO and shutter speed, and if you start to adjust them all the time, you will get way better results, because especially if you use the full auto modes, you will never know what kind of settings the camera uses to take the shot. So yeah, especially in this case, it is possible that the camera uses some settings that might get a good photo, but if you would adjust a couple of things, you could easily get a better picture. And of course I know it takes some time to learn and notice what's working and what's not working, so don't get me wrong here, but I personally think if you want to get the best possible result, it is absolutely worth it to spend that time and to learn everything about setting up the manual mode. So yeah, in the end, if you use any auto or priority modes, maybe think about to switch to the full manual mode to have actually full control. Another really important topic that we need to talk about is the focus modes, and here it's really important to find the best modes for your shooting scenarios. I personally mostly use the single dot autofocus point, because in this case I can always select the area that should be in focus, but sometimes I really like to use the eye autofocus mode, especially for people and animals, because it makes the whole shooting session way easier. But again, it totally depends on what I want to do. Sometimes it is easier to stick with the single dot mode to have more control, but, and this is the most important part here, I highly recommend to learn how to use the manual focus as well. Because yes, there are situations where the autofocus mode won't know what you want to do, and that's why it's really important to know how you can use the manual focus to get the shot in these situations. And yet it's actually really annoying if you try to get a shot of a thin leaf using the autofocus mode, for example, and it simply won't detect it because it uses the background all the time. In this case you will take a photo way faster if you set up the focus on your own, so don't rely completely on the auto modes. The next tip that we need to talk about is one of my favorite tips that I want to share with you, because it actually changed my whole shooting behavior. As I started to take photos, I always got stressed as soon as something went wrong or the shots weren't that good or all kind of things like that. And obviously if that happens, your shots won't get better because you are stressed. So that's why it's really important to stay calm, and if any idea simply won't work right now, just move on and try it again later. And yes, I personally had multiple situations where I tried to get a shot but I never got it, and a couple of days later I simply tried it again and it just worked. So in the end, what I want to say is that it is absolutely fine to get bad results. There's no photographer out there who just takes awesome photos. In the end, the difference between you and other photographers is simply that you see your own bad results while you always see the good results from other photographers, because obviously most of them won't share any bad images that they took. So yeah, if you're out there to take some photos, just stay calm and you will get some good results in the end. But now let's move on to the next tip, and another tip that I would like to share with you is to not limit yourself. So especially if you don't have multiple lenses at home, I highly recommend to get a versatile lens for your photo sessions. And a good example is this 24-105 f4 here. This lens offers a variety of options from 24mm, so wide shots, up to 105mm, which is really nice to get some shots from the distance. And yes, I always have this lens in my camera bag, especially for situations where I don't really know what kind of photos I want to take, and that's why such a versatile lens makes these kind of situations way easier, because I simply don't need to switch lenses all the time. So yeah, in the end, what I want to say is that I can set my focus on taking some good shots instead of thinking all the time that I need to use a different lens for these kind of photos. I always try to make my whole workflow as easy as possible, because I don't want to worry about my gear all the time. But now let's move on with tip number 5, and this one is all about boring shots. So if you take some quick photos, it is absolutely fine if you don't care about special compositions, but if you actually want to improve your own results, I highly recommend to spend more time on planning your shot. And no, of course that doesn't mean that you need to spend multiple hours planning to get a shot, but especially if you're you're out there, try to use basic rules like the rule of thirds, for example, to spice up your composition. Or what I always recommend is to think about your own angles and general positions. In most cases, you always try to use angles and positions that are in your comfort zone, but that actually limits your own workflow because you maybe don't want to get low on the ground, for example. So instead of using the same angles over and over again, maybe try to set your focus on a variety of options here. And that's a perfect opportunity to talk about light as well. Especially light is one of the best options that you can use to improve your own results. So especially if you're out there in nature, always try to check the overall lighting situation. So for example, maybe move around your key element to see how the composition changes as soon as the light hits it from a different side, or maybe add some more lights to it. And no, you don't have to buy additional lights to do that. You can easily use your smartphone as well. In this case, just use the flash or simply open up a color on full screen and increase the brightness of your screen to use it as another light source for your photos. So yeah, in the end, just be a little bit creative and use light to get better results. But yeah, these are 6 beginner photography mistakes that you can easily avoid. Question of the day: what is your favorite lens? Let me know that in the comments. So, thank you for watching, I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you're new, don't forget to smash that subscribe button to stay updated for upcoming videos, and I'll see you in the next video.